Welcome to Shadow of Truth, the chilling mystery of Amanda Winkowski, the girl found frozen in a trash can, the girl with big dreams. Before we dive into this haunting true story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more real-life crime documentaries, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Comment below where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how far these stories reach across the world. On a cold December night in Buffalo, New York, a 20-year-old woman named Amanda Winkowski vanished without a trace. Just days later, her disappearance would become one of the most disturbing and controversial unsolved cases in American true crime history. Amanda, or Manda, as her friends lovingly called her, wasn't the kind of girl you'd expect to end up in a dark headline. She was vibrant, hopeful, and full of energy. She graduated from Niagara Wheatfield High School in 2006, a cheerleader, a gymnast, even crowned Miss Teen Buffalo for a time. She was the kind of girl who lit up a room, who carried herself like she had a purpose. Her biggest dream was to become a police officer. She wanted to protect people, to make her city a safer place. She even took criminal justice classes and earned a license from the Board of Cooperative Educational Services. But somewhere along that bright path, something changed. A dangerous turn. Amanda's mom, Leslie, would later say that everything started to go wrong when her daughter met the wrong crowd. During her time in the criminal justice program, Amanda began hanging around older people who were deep into addiction, money, and manipulation. What started as casual experimentation quickly spiraled into dependency. Amanda once told her mother that it felt like the devil was after her. Those words haunted Leslie for years. She described Amanda's struggle as running from something you can't see, something that always catches up to you no matter how far you run. Despite her growing dependency, Amanda tried everything she could to turn her life around. She went through detox, rehab programs, and countless nights crying on the phone to her mom, swearing this time would be different. Leslie never gave up on her daughter, not once. But addiction is a trap, and for Amanda, every time she climbed out, something or someone pulled her right back in. The man called Adam. Around that time, Amanda met a man named Adam Patterson. He was much older, controlling, and had a strange influence over her life. People described him as her boss, though no one seemed to know exactly what kind of business he was in. Amanda moved in with Adam on the Tuscarora Reservation in Lewiston, a quiet area just outside of Buffalo. From the outside, it looked like a peaceful setup, but inside, it was the start of Amanda's downfall. Adam knew all the right people who could feed Amanda's habit. He set up meetings, arranged deals, and often drove her to and from those encounters. In exchange, Amanda had to do things she never wanted to. She had fallen into a cycle of exploitation, trading herself just to keep the addiction at bay. Still, she had hope. Amanda enrolled in Niagara County Community College, studying criminal justice again, and took a job at a local bar called Cocktail Bob's. Friends said she was trying to rebuild her life. But fate had other plans. The last night. It was December 5th, 2008. Snow fell quietly over the streets of Buffalo. Inside Cocktail Bob's, Amanda worked her usual shift. Around 7 p.m., her phone rang. It was Adam. He told her about a man who wanted to meet her, someone who went by the name Justice. Amanda didn't know it yet, but Justice wasn't his real name. His name was Antoine Garner, a man with a violent crowd, criminal record, a towering build, and a reputation that sent chills through the local community. That night, Amanda asked a coworker to cover her shift and left the bar with Adam. They drove straight to Antoine's house on Buffalo's east side. When they arrived, Amanda stepped out of the car. Adam said he stayed outside, waiting. An hour passed, then another. Finally, Adam claimed Amanda called him and told him she'd be a while. He said she told him to leave, that she'd find her own way home. So he did. It was the last time anyone saw Amanda Winkowski alive, the missing person. When Amanda didn't come home, her mother immediately knew something was wrong. Amanda might have struggled, but she always called her mom. Always. After 2 days of silence, Leslie reported her daughter missing. Police questioned Adam Patterson first. His story never changed. He dropped Amanda off at Antoine's house, waited an hour, got a call from her, and went home. Nothing more. Then came Antoine. He told detectives that Amanda had only stayed for 15 minutes before leaving, and that she left with Adam. He denied ever touching her, but police didn't buy it. 2 men, 2 conflicting stories, and no Amanda. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Posters went up all around Buffalo, Amanda's smiling face, the words missing in bold red letters. Leslie searched abandoned buildings, shelters, even walked the streets at night, calling her daughter's name. But there was no answer, the frozen discovery. Then, on a freezing January morning in 2009, everything changed. Police received an anonymous 911 call. The voice on the line said there was something in a trash can near a church parking lot on Buffalo's east side, not far from Antoine's home. When officers arrived, the snow was thick, the air biting cold. They opened the trash can, and inside was a frozen body, face down. The hair had been completely shaved off. The skin was pale, marked, and cold as ice, the only thing ID. Identifying the victim was a butterfly tattoo on the neck, a tattoo Amanda's mom had always loved. Amanda had been found. Leslie's world collapsed that day. Her daughter, the girl who once dreamed of wearing a police badge, was gone, tossed away like garbage. But the nightmare was just beginning, because when the autopsy results came back, the official report claimed her death was an accidental overdose. And no one, not her mother, not her friends, not anyone who knew Amanda, believed that for a second. The autopsy that changed everything. The discovery of Amanda's body should have ignited a relentless search for the truth. Instead, it sparked a controversy that still shadows the case, one that began with the official word from the medical examiner: accidental overdose. For Leslie, Amanda's mother, that label felt like a door slamming shut. Not just on justice, but on the very idea that someone might be held accountable. It erased the bruises people said they saw, the shaved head, the placement of the body, the freezing cold January morning, the proximity to where she was last seen. An accident? To Amanda's loved ones, nothing about the scene felt accidental. But a death certificate has power. It shapes what police pursue, what prosecutors consider, and how the public interprets a life and a loss. The first report, a verdict that stopped the clock. The first autopsy, fast, clinical, definitive, said Amanda died because of drugs. That conclusion recast everything that came before it. If it was an overdose, then the bruising wasn't necessarily evidence, the location of the body wasn't necessarily a dump site, and the people she was last with weren't necessarily suspects. An overdose makes a case feel sad, not sinister, tragic, but not criminal. Yet the facts around Amanda's last known movements refused to sit quietly. She'd left Cocktail Bob's with Adam Patty, Rasan, to visit a man who called himself Justice, later identified as Antoine Garner. From there, the story split. Adam said Amanda told him to leave. Antoine said she only visited briefly and left with Adam. Conflicting accounts, an undisputedly vulnerable young woman, and then silence. The accidental overdose label flattened those tensions, turning sharp questions into background noise. Leslie fights back. What do you do when the official narrative feels wrong? You keep going. Leslie, grieving but resolute, pushed for answers the report did not provide. The visible marks, the shaved head, the condition and placement of the body in a trash can during an unforgiving New York winter. None of it squared with accident. So, the family brought in legal help and independent experts. If the system wouldn't ask harder questions, they would. The second look. Independent forensics. Years later, a second independent autopsy was performed at the family's request. This time, the lens was different. Instead of working toward a tidy label, the examination zoomed in on what the body actually said. According to the independent findings, there were signs consistent with physical struggle, injuries that could align with someone trying to protect themselves. The report reframed the narrative. It suggested homicide, not accident, and it challenged the idea that Amanda's toxicology alone could explain her death. A separate, independent lab analysis echoed the skepticism. While substances were present, the levels reported were said to be insufficient to be fatal on their own. Another detail raised alarms: evidence of a well-known incapacitating substance sometimes used to exploit victims. Combined with the disputed injury patterns and the recovery conditions, the accidental overdose conclusion now looked less like certainty and more like a theory with gaps. This wasn't proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but it was a credible, expert-led alternative that begged to be taken seriously. DNA, proximity, and the people in Amanda's orbit. Investigators and independent reviewers pointed to DNA connections, profiles reportedly linking back to Antoine Garner and Adam Patterson, along with unidentified female DNA. DNA doesn't tell a whole story, but it places people close. It shouts contact. It suggests opportunity. It raises the question everyone was already asking. If there was no intimate contact as claimed, why was contact indicated? And then there was geography. Amanda was last known to go to Antoine's residence. Her body was found in a trash can near a church parking lot not far from there. Proximity alone does not equal guilt, but in a case like this, proximity demands scrutiny. Still, the first autopsy's accident label cast a long shadow. With the manner of death pinned to overdose, the threshold for a homicide investigation became brutally high. Leads dimmed, momentum slowed. The window for the most decisive early evidence narrowed and then closed. The third opinion, official re-examination. Pressed by public questions and the family's advocacy, the case drew another official re-examination, a third autopsy performed for the district attorney's office. If the second autopsy had swung the pendulum toward homicide, many hoped the third would unify the science behind a single conclusion. It didn't. The third review reportedly could not determine a clear cause of death. Without consensus among authorities, the original certificate remained accidental overdose, and with it, the structural drag on any potential homicide prosecution. For Leslie, this wasn't a disagreement among experts. It felt like another door closing. The system versus a mother's resolve. Years passed. Pain calcified into persistence. In 21, more than a decade after Amanda's body was found, Leslie sought legal action to change the official manner of death, either to homicide or undetermined, or to compel a fresh, full review of the case. The petition wasn't merely about a line on a certificate. It was about reopening lanes for justice. The effort was dismissed on procedural grounds. Too late, the ruling essentially said, but time limits don't erase questions. They don't undo the facts of proximity, conflicting accounts, or the controversy around the autopsies. They don't explain why a young woman with ambitions to serve her community ended up alone in a trash can in midwinter. Patterns, histories, and an uncomfortable timeline. While nothing in this chapter accuses anyone, patterns matter in true crime. In subsequent years, Antoine faced serious convictions unrelated to Amanda, cases involving violence and coercion. Advocates of Amanda's case pointed to those convictions and asked, if these behaviors were proven later, what does that suggest about what might have happened earlier? Legally, the answer is nothing. You can't backfill a case with future crimes. Morally and investigatively, however, patterns often prompt a second look at old files. Did the initial overdose conclusion, by design or by inertia, prevent that second look from happening when it mattered most? Then came a new claim from 21 advocates. A witness allegedly connected a stun device to Amanda's final hours. If true and verifiable, that detail could help reconcile conflicting injuries and toxicology ambiguities. But, like so much in this case, the claim remained contested, a thread waiting for an investigator with the mandate and resources to pull it clean. The forensic fork in the road, in complex cases, manner of death calls are pivotal. Accident narrows the frame. It implies tragic self-harm through substances, lessening the likelihood of prosecutorial pursuit. Homicide widens it. It signals intentional harm by another person, mobilizing investigative horsepower. Undetermined keeps the aperture open. It acknowledges uncertainty while preserving investigative options. Amanda's case, sealed early as an accident, took the narrowest road first. Everything after had to swim upstream against that original current. Human cost of a checkbox. For Leslie, the checkbox isn't just a bureaucratic field. It's a story about her daughter that the world believes. Accident suggests there was no perpetrator, no intent, no need for accountability. But when a body is found the way Amanda's was, cold, hidden, silenced, people who loved her can't accept the idea that there was no human decision behind any of it. They remember the determination in her voice when she enrolled in criminal justice classes, the grit it took to keep trying to get clean. the way she clung to hope, even as the circle around her tightened. What the evidence demands, let's strip away the noise and hold on to the anchors. Conflicting accounts, the last two people tied to Amanda's movements offered incompatible stories. Proximity. She was found close to where she was reportedly last seen. Condition and placement, the recovery setting raises serious questions inconsistent with a simple accident, according to independent reviewers. DNA. Contact was indicated, including profiles tied to known figures in the case, and unidentified female DNA that needs explanation. Toxicology debate. Substances were present. Independent analysis challenged that they were sufficient to be fatal on their own. Pattern-based concerns, later, unrelated convictions against a key figure invite, but do not legally prove, renewed scrutiny of earlier timelines. Any one point might be explainable. Together, they form a mosaic that does not comfortably fit an accident narrative. Why this still matters. Unsolved doesn't mean unsolvable. It means unfinished. Every share, every comment, every viewer who hears Amanda's name keeps the file warm. Somewhere, a memory exists that hasn't been recorded. A text, a ride, a doorbell camera, a detail dismissed as unimportant at the time. Families like Leslie's have learned that sometimes justice doesn't come from a dramatic revelation. It comes from persistence, and from people who refuse to let a story be misfiled under accident when the facts say otherwise. The last night, searching for the truth behind Amanda's death. The final hours, December 5th, 2008. The night was bitterly cold in Buffalo, New York, the kind of night that seemed to freeze sound itself. Inside Cocktail Bob's, Amanda Winkowski finished her shift early. Witnesses remembered her smiling but distracted. Her phone buzzed constantly. It was Adam Patterson, her so-called boss, telling her about another meeting, another man who wanted to see her. His name? Justice. Amanda hesitated. She told her friend she'd be back soon, that it was just a quick visit. It was the kind of reassurance people give when they sense danger but don't want to admit it out loud. Around 7 p.m., Amanda walked out into the snow. Adam was waiting outside in his car. They drove toward Buffalo's east side, to a small rundown home belonging to a man named Antoine Garner. Adam said Amanda got out and walked up to the door. He stayed in the car. He claimed he never went inside, but after an hour, Amanda still hadn't returned. Then, according to Adam, she called him. Her voice sounded strange, calm, yet distant. She allegedly told him she'd be a while and that he could leave. He did. That phone call was the last time anyone ever heard from Amanda Winkowski. Conflicting stories and missing pieces, the timeline after that is a fog of contradiction. Adam told police he went straight home around 8:30 p.m. Antoine claimed Amanda only stayed 15 minutes, then left with Adam, but phone records, physical evidence, and the condition of Amanda's body tell a different story. Amanda's remains were found 5 weeks later, less than a mile from Antoine's house, inside a trash can near a church parking lot. Her body was frozen, nude, and shaved, with visible marks that some experts said suggested a violent struggle. The distance between her last known location and where she was found was too close to be coincidence. Antoine denied everything. But when DNA testing came back, his genetic material was reportedly found on Amanda's body, along with Adam's and 2 unidentified female profiles. How could that be if neither man had any contact with her that night? A pattern of violence. Years after Amanda's death, Antoine Garner was convicted of multiple violent crimes, including assault and strangulation involving other women. Prosecutors described him as dangerous, predatory, and unpredictable. For Amanda's supporters, this was more than coincidence. The pattern mirrored her case: women, vulnerability, control, and violence. Still, despite these later convictions, no charges were ever filed in Amanda's death. Authorities pointed to the original autopsy, which ruled her death an accidental overdose. That single sentence on her death certificate effectively stopped the case in its tracks. Even when independent autopsies suggested homicide, even when new evidence surfaced, the official record never changed. New evidence and a new hope. In 2021, more than a decade after Amanda's body was found, advocates claimed new evidence had emerged. a witness who said Antoine had a stun gun and allegedly used it on Amanda before her death. If true, it could explain several mysteries: the marks on her body, the sudden loss of consciousness, even the condition of her remains. But without a reopened investigation, these claims remain in limbo, suspended between rumor and revelation. Leslie, Amanda's mother, continues to fight. She's not just demanding a label change on a certificate. She's demanding that her daughter's life and death be treated as more than a statistic. Unanswered questions. There are three main theories in Amanda's case. The overdose theory, that Amanda died accidentally and those who found her panicked and hid her body. A murder theory, that Amanda was attacked and killed, then dumped to conceal evidence. The cover-up theory, that multiple people were involved and the truth was buried under procedural mistakes. Every theory has fragments of truth, but none explain everything. Why was her hair completely shaved? Why was her body positioned upside down in a trash can? Why were defensive injuries mentioned in later reports, but ignored in the first autopsy? And if the overdose was accidental, who placed her there, and why? A system that failed. Amanda's story isn't just about one young woman. It's about a system that sometimes fails the very people it's meant to protect. She was trying to rebuild her life, taking classes, getting a job, wanting to serve as a police officer, but the people around her saw her as something to use, not someone to help. The tragedy of Amanda Winkowski lies not only in how she died, but in how her truth was handled afterward, inconsistently, incompletely, and with devastating consequence. 16 years later, the people closest to her still fight for her name, her memory, and the justice she never received. A legacy of questions. Leslie still visits her daughter's grave, leaving flowers and prayers, but also reminders for investigators. She's kept every file, every report, every note, and every year she asks the same question. How could my daughter's dream of being a police officer end with the police saying her death was an accident? It's a question that deserves an answer. The unfinished case. As of 25, no one has been charged in connection with Amanda's death. Antoine Garner remains in prison for unrelated violent offenses. Adam Patterson has kept a low profile. The unknown DNA profiles have never been matched. But for thousands who've heard Amanda's story, one thing is certain. This case is far from closed. Outro. A message to viewers. Thank you for watching and keeping Amanda's story alive. Every share, every comm. Not every voice matters. Do you believe Amanda's death was an accident or something darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new true crime documentary. Because sometimes the scariest stories are the real ones. Justice for Amanda Winkowski, the girl who dreamed of protecting others but needed protection herself.